What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fye and Brandon Cruz. We're going to be talking through this NFL slate. I am not playing the NBA tonight. I think Sheets is going to talk about it a little bit later. There's still some news waiting on the Celtics players for that. I'm happy to throw in. I did go through what my core would be and everything. I'm just not going to be around, so I am not going to be playing myself. But it seems like a pretty chalky slate, and it's going to be hard to get different in that one. And then we've got an interesting NFL game where I think you're going to see a lot of defense, more defenses and kickers than maybe we're used to seeing. What's your overall take, Brandon, and on the NFL slate?
So, this is a slate where just, me building and me looking at stuff, like I am completely off of what the chalk is on like my own accord. Not specifically trying to get different, but like I am building so Cleveland heavy, and I did not go out of my way to do that at all. I think it's just way easier to team stack Cleveland, specifically with how cheap a lot of their guys are, than chase the Denver side of this. And I think that's what a lot of people are going to end up doing. Even like 4-2s leading Denver side, like I probably won't be doing that. Like I'm probably going to lean heavy on Cleveland and their defense, and the Cleveland kicker today. Like that's pretty much what's making me different right off the bat. Is like I'm going to be so heavy on Cleveland, and I'm not just doing one lineup tonight. I'm just going to be going like crazy for Cleveland.
Right. I actually agree with that, and that's sort of what I got to quite a bit of as well. I also think this is the kind of slate where you definitely can leave money on the table if you want to. There's a lot of paths where the 42K type of build could get there, and I have like 6,000 left over on some lineups. I just think that there's a lot of variance in this game, and for what it's worth, I like the Broncos to win the game tonight. I don't know about the 6.5. I feel like I'm not actually betting it, but I feel like it's a pretty feels like a very fair number. I was a little surprised the total wasn't a little bit higher than it is. That's the only thing that caught me, and I'm getting to a lot, like you said, a lot of the Cleveland offense pieces, just because, like you said, they're cheaper. We have a lot of different ways we could go. I'm looking at my 7 highest owned captains. 6 of them are from Cleveland. And are you finding the same thing? I mean, I know Cleveland heavy in general, but what are you doing captain wise?
Yeah, I mean, well, right off the bat, it's leaning mainly towards Chubb, Winston, and Njoku. One thing that I wanted to mention of why I think I'm so heavy on Cleveland is the fact that the projections, no matter what you're using, there's not a huge gap between like the Denver side, despite there being like 6-point favorites. A lot of their players are projected to score DFS wise very similar to the Cleveland side. If not, like there's almost more Cleveland players projected to outscore a lot of the Denver players in this game, which is like super weird to see from an underdog of this magnitude.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from with that. What player do you have? Again, I know you like the single entry and everything, but so who is specifically the one who you have the most of? I'm getting to a lot of Judy and Chubb, and those are my 2 highest owned right now. What are you getting to for captains?
For captains right now, it is Chubb for me. Then it's Winston, and then I believe it's Judy. Since I'm not going to do single. Look, November and October was just atrocious. Like no matter what I did was just wrong across the board. So I'm like, okay, screw it. We're gonna go back to where the season started and just do like 20 maxing like crazy. But for me, like I said, it's Chubb. Mainly due to the price tag. Now, I typically don't go down the road of, well, I was pushing Chubb heavy last week and it worked out totally. So like it's not even that. Like I think he's 94 or he is 94, and him being at that price tag, being so cheap compared to the other expensive guys on the slate, like he's 4th highest and he's under 10K. Like that's crazy, right? If you're playing all your Cleveland guys, you can very easily have the big 3, if not the big 4 from Cleveland in like any lineup. That's Winston, Chubb, Judy, and Njoku, and you can 1v1 Judy and more. Like you're telling me I can get the entire like top tier offense from a team. Like whenever I run into a situation like that, that's usually just where I go. Whereas like with Denver, if you're playing Bo Nix and Sutton, and then you're trying to get to like a Cleveland guy, like you're having to do a lot of 1v1s in that situation, I would just rather play the team, or in situations where I can play the team, that's just what I'm going to do.
Yeah, no, I get it. I was looking at, in terms of like sheets always like used to go through all the value plays. I don't think you need to mess around too much with it, to be honest with you. If you wanted to throw Kadarius Toney into a lineup, no problem. Jamari Thrash has been getting a little bit more of the work for Cleveland, a little bit more of the snaps he's supposed to tonight anyway. That's another one that popped up just a little bit for me. But I'm not dumpster diving on this slate as much as like I have on some of the other ones. Are you finding that's that same thing, that there's not the super cheapos maybe are not that necessary?
Yeah, I'm not really seeing the need to, outside of like hoping, or like if you're in a situation where you think Chubb fails, like you play Ford. For the most part, my cheapest guys in my lineups are the defenses and kickers.
Mhm.
Um, like I think the Browns defense is a phenomenal play today. I think both kickers are very much in play, especially because they're not projected to get owned much. Like I like the idea if you have everybody you want and you have both Will and Hopkins, or both Will and Dustin in your lineups. Like I'm perfectly fine with that. I do have like one-offs with like Mims, Atkins, Humphrey, but I don't even think you need that. With how
Mm.
closely projected everybody is, I would just take like the for sure 6 to 9 points that the kickers give us,
Yeah.
or like worst case scenario, the 4 to 6 that the defenses give us, versus like dumpster diving and stuff like that. And yet again, now that might be because I'm so Cleveland heavy. Now I'm sure if I was like playing more Broncos, or paying up for like a Sutton captain more so, then
Yeah.
I would probably have to be in the $1,000 range more. But for what I'm doing here, I'm not even concerned about that range tonight at all.
Yeah, and that's sort of where I'm at. The only guy I'm gone out of my way to play a little bit of is Marvin Mims. He's been getting work in the backfield in addition to I mean, he's put up 7, 13, and 7 his last 3 games, and he's getting work as a running back, and he also was twice tackled at the 1 yard line. So he's getting work as a running back, and he's also a receiver for them. So I don't mind the idea of getting to a little of him. He's the one I think I'm the most on of any of them. I think that if you wanted to talk yourself into little Jordan Humphrey or something, that's fine. But I kind of like the Mims idea as a sort of he's getting no ownership basically, and like I said, they've been using him more and more as the season's gone on. So
So
go ahead.
I was gonna say, speaking out loud, because I think Mims will be the more popular guy in that low 3 to high 2K range, because that's kind of where you're having to go today.
Yeah.
For me, the reason why I was, in so much, or maybe not invested, but the reason I decided to do the slate more is because I was mainly waiting on the news of Reynolds earlier. The fact that he's out doesn't muddy the water nearly as much. In the value range, because you didn't necessarily know what was going to happen with Mims, Humphrey, and stuff. So with Reynolds not being in play, this kind of pushes everybody towards Mims. And if I'm going to be doing a bunch of one-offs with teams that I already like, then I would much rather be on Atkins and Humphreys,
Mhm.
who shouldn't carry nearly as much ownership, or even Thrash as well. Like that, I would personally get off of Mims, because I feel like everybody's going to see that he's had work in the backfield, and I would just personally not want to be on like the value like $2,800 guy.
But do you think that like I'm not seeing him with much ownership at all?
Well, I mean, you got to think it's not like for a play like him. Sure, if he comes in, 10 to 15, like that's still huge,
Yeah.
because it in that range, because that's showing that there's a lot of builds that are like landing on him as like the better projected guy at 2,800. And typically, when you're below 3 and there's a guy channeling 10 to 15, I think he comes in closer to like 18 to 20
That's
today.
probably
Like
fair.
I think people are gonna be like, oh, he's getting work in the backfield and stuff, and then like Humphreys and Atkins are not going to be owned at all.
Yeah.
That's my take there.
Yeah, I get that. And we got a question here from the Eagles. He's asking about Vele. He said that I think he means Vele. Vele is my highest owned captain from Denver. He's the one I have the most up from the Denver side. But like I said, I'm mostly in playing the Cleveland side of things as a captain. But I do like Vele. Are you getting too much of him on this slate?
So he is my highest exposure Denver Bronco, and then it's Sutton. Those two are the guys I'm focusing on from the Denver side.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm doing a lot of 5-1s, it's Vele or Sutton as like the one off, or
Yeah.
the kicker. Those are like the three guys I'm focused on from Denver.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I also think that I got to a little bit of the Jerome Ford even as a sort of a pivot off of the Chubb thing. And the problem is he's just not enough. Well, he's cheaper, but he's not enough cheaper to where you really need to do it. Maybe I have a little too much Jerome Ford actually now that I look at it. But I did think that I think he's more of a viable play in the flex than he is as a captain, I would say.
Yeah, and yet again, I'm not trying to go back because I really hate, at least speaking out loud of like, oh, this happened last week, this is gonna happen again or whatever, especially on something stupid as
Sure.
football. But the fact that almost verbatim, we have a slate to where like Nick Chubb is not gonna be owned,
Mm-hmm.
like that's just crazy to me. Like, why would you not play Nick Chubb in a
Mm-hmm.
situation like this, regardless if it worked last time or not?
Right.
If he's just not gonna be played, like that's the guy I'm gonna play. So like yet again, I love Nick Chubb in this game just because nobody's going to have him. Like,
yeah, I like the play, and I think that touchdown variance is probably you're going to want him on his side. I do feel a little worried about him personally as a player. Like he just doesn't seem to have the same burst he used to. You could say that has something to do with the offensive line, and the only other problem with him is he doesn't generally catch many passes. But he's going to be the one who gets the ball by the goal line. I think it makes a lot of sense. And like I said, just like you, I think he's my highest owned captain at the moment. And Saberson's got him at 2% as a captain. I think Goldie has him at 4% as a captain. I think that's just too low for how much work he's going to get.
Especially like I don't get this slate from a like just looking over it from a projection standpoint. Like it like even if it's like a big game like with it or a big matchup like Chiefs Ravens or like Eagles or whatever, like we almost never have like two captains like have half of the contest basically, or
Right.
like why is every lineup projected that, and not even play, but like is everybody focusing on Bo Nix and Sutton, and then like
Mhm.
Cleveland is just not owned at all? Like ideally, or most of the time in slates outside of like the quarterback or whatever, like you usually have a much more spread out like just captain ownership. Like why like
Yeah.
that DFS 101, find places where you can be contrarian that aren't stupid. The fact that I can get different from easily like 38 to 45% of the field by just not having Nix or Sutton in the captain position, and then on
Mhm.
top of that going like Cleveland, like this just seems like the ideal slate to like go contrarian with
Yep.
like an actual plus like EV ROI expected.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And I think it is a good one for that. We've got Jimmy saying that Thrash is going to get in there. There's a lot of people talking about Thrash today, and I didn't get there much, but I certainly don't mind taking a stab. And he's not going to have enough ownership. I've heard a lot of people talking about him, which is kind of weird. For basically a guy who hasn't really produced at all, really. And I know he was out for a little bit too, but. Yeah, maybe go a little bit different with Thrash. I think it's not the worst idea in the world. And we've got Eagles here talking about his Eagles, his Eagles last night against my Ravens. It was a rough one to watch. The Eagles look great, by the way. This is the best. I think this is the best team that they've had, including their team that went to the Super Bowl. I think they're really, really, really good, and I think they're just about it. They're probably just in the same. They're in the same tier to me as Detroit. Just after this weekend, I was really, really impressed by that game and very disappointed in my Ravens. You're not playing the Sunday slates much these days, right?
Mm-mm.
No. I was going to ask if you did, but I guess you wouldn't have a take on that stuff then. I think
the only time I see anything from Sunday is when it's like an injury on Twitter. Like that's the only thing I see from Sundays now.
Twitter has gotten in. Somebody, my buddy Chris Kirkwood, he works for Roto Grinders, and he tweeted it. He's like, it's gotten to the point where it's just getting ridiculous, guys. Every single lineup that wins the millionaire, every single lineup that wins every big tournament, people just go and rip it apart and talk about how it makes no sense. And it's like, well, that's the whole point. Like, what do you? So everybody's the idiot who wins. Is that where we're at in 2024? I don't think that way myself. I'm just rerunning my builds here and seeing if anything. I don't think there's any updated information or anybody who's out that we were expecting to be in or anything new.
No, I don't think we're waiting on anybody, least important wise in this.
Yeah.
Which is another great thing, at least at this point, like in week, what is it, 14 or 13, like to not, like we already knew Timlin was out. We already knew Reynolds was out earlier. Like there's no real news we're waiting for.
Right. It's really weird that football has become the sport where we're not waiting on news, and basketball is like every single slate. It could be 2 games, but there's always some sort of late breaking news and a different starting lineup, and it's just wild these days, and it's gotten really, really hard to enjoy playing for me. Look at that! I'm up to 30% Nick Chubb as my captain with my last run. I did tweak a few things, and I don't mind it, to be honest with you. Like, if we're gonna let's get way over the field. If I'm not 30% of them, he's going to be like 5% owned or 4% owned as a captain at most. I'm very happy with the way this is looking for me right now. And
and like I can't emphasize this enough for people, like, at least for me. Now I'm on the video just saying this and stuff, but like I rarely enter a game like this to where it's like, okay, this is like the clear path. Like
right.
I know like my day is absolutely made or broken on what Cleveland does, but like I just think this is a fantastic DFS slate to get different on.
I totally agree.
And entering, I'll either make absolutely 0 or hopefully like 3x would be the worst. Like it should be like way higher. Like it's nothing, or like 3x would be like the expected minimum return on a slate like this.
Yeah. I'm looking at my thing. Yeah, I think this is. I'm happy to get wild with this one, and I'm looking at my owner. I don't have any. Yeah, so basically, I'm just not playing Bo Nix at captain at all, and I'm not playing Jameis at captain except for like maybe in one lineup. I just think that I want to get different. I don't want to play the whatever between Bo Nix and Jameis Winston. Although Jameis is not getting that much ownership, so that would actually be the way I'd go. But we got Bo Nix projected at 30% as a captain. That seems a little bit excessive to me. So I just won't do it. Pretty much simple as that.
Yeah,
and I did adjust go ahead.
I was going to say, I think I will have, and I'll probably have like 25% of my lineups, like 5, I'm running 20, leaning Denver. And even then, like, I think Williams would probably be the better captain play from Denver side. Yet again, price restrictive or not restricted at 6,800. Yet again, you're not playing Knicks, you're not playing Sutton. You can still get to them, but if you run Williams, like if you want to attack this slate from a Denver side, like I feel like Williams is the captain that you want to use, because then you can get Knicks, Sutton, and then 2 expensive guys from Cleveland.
Yeah,
like that's how I'm going to approach it from a Denver side in those lineups.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just writing this down. Yeah, so. Yeah, and the thing is, the only thing with the Williams, I can't figure out what the hell's going on. I can't criticize it. I mean, this is it's literally we know why the coach's name is escaping me for some reason. Sean Payton. This is what he does. He will totally change who's the primary running back in situations all the time. So I like the idea of actually, if I was going to play the Denver things, I think I would try. I'll throw Estime into a lineup or 2. I sort of talked myself a little bit into more of the Mims than I was initially going to play. I think I actually want to be overweight on that play. And I'd like to have even one lineup or 2 with him as captain. Javonte Williams, I mean, look, he's put up 2 fantasy points, 2 out of his last 3 games. I don't think it's just like clearly his job. I'm telling you, they've been running more of the Mims back there. They run McLaughlin out there. They try to get Estime looks. So I'm a little worried about the Williams play myself. But I get the logic of where you're coming from with it. I just think I'm way underweight the Denver side in general. And one thing even about Jameis that I like about always for fantasy stuff, like if they're down, he will get you some garbage time points, and that means it's going to be spread about all these guys. So I don't even think they need to win the game for the Cleveland captains to be the optimal way to go. That's just my take. All right, starting to dry up a little bit. I don't really know. I've got anybody. I dropped it in the chat, but anybody with any questions for the NBA or NFL, I think we're pretty much on the same page more than we usually are, with the exception of maybe the Mims idea. But this is a weird NBA site, and I did this for NFL. I changed my I dropped down to 40,000 as the minimum. I don't mind leaving a ton of money on the table on certain slates like this, and I never want to leave money on the table in the NBA. If there was a night to do it, this might be the night to do it, because there's such extreme value, and the spend ups are not necessarily in these insane spots. They're just going to get played because people are going to have the money to do it. I think it might be a slate where the NBA, where I wouldn't do anything crazy, but if I was, multi-entering, maybe my one take would be, you know what, maybe I'll make the maximum amount I'll spend is 49.6 or something like that, just to have everything, just to be a little bit unique, because I think it's going to be hard to get unique, and I think it's okay to leave a little money on the table, which I never do.
I will say, because I at least looked at it before. I was like, oh no, I want to play DB or not. I ended up not playing because I was like, I don't like how this slate is looking. I think it's gonna be determined on the value. But I was not getting to Davis or LeBron, and I was getting to a lot of like the AK guys plus the value for what it's worth. But when I saw that, I was like, okay, you know what, this is it's like, especially if I like this stupid NFL game so much, I'm just gonna be like, oh, I'm not playing NBA. But that is what I was seeing earlier.
Yeah, for sure. Now I'm getting more of the Judy. I think I want to get a little more. Let's do 10, and we'll do Judy. Cap him at 15. All right. Yeah, Judy. I think Judy is the one Cleveland that you're gonna see some ownership on at captain.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions, guys? Anything else to go through? I'm gonna probably get out of here in a few minutes because, well, I can go longer. I have to be somewhere at 6:45 Eastern, and I just have to save this so I don't forget. But I don't have a whole lot more to go over on this particular slate. I think we've sort of talked through all of what we like the most, and we're hoping we're hoping for Cleveland, because I have literally almost everybody outside of Bailey. He's the only guy from Denver I'm captaining now.
Yeah, I mean, usually we can talk longer. We just happen to be aligned on this one, and I mean, I don't know, like we or maybe not we, but the industry does talk about like trying to find plus EV slates or whatnot, and those are very hard to find. But like, I just don't get why Denver is going to be so highly owned tonight. So, like, if you just I'll at least put this on the screen and not show any lines and stuff. But here, like, even from a SaberSim perspective, if my keyboard will work, there we go.
Yeah.
Let me move this. Let me put this on the screen.
Okay. Next.
See, now I'm in the dark, so she's not light mode because I don't have a ring light. But like, even just looking at the projections of these guys, now yet again, this is SaberSim, but like, this is extremely close from if you just sort it from the salaries, like, these guys are so extremely close together. There's nobody projected for over 20. Yeah, sure. Bo has like a 4.5 or whatever point leading everybody else. But like, when things are this close, yet again, as I said, like, why is Denver getting all this ownership when the mean projections are so similar between all these players? And then also, why, and again, this is SaberSim, but even if he goes through and look at Cheats and Goldies and other places in the industry, why are these projections from Cleveland so similar to Denver if it's such a drastic 6-point play? Like, yet again, I can't bet here in Texas, and I really never do, but I feel like this is where I'd just put money on Cleveland. Like, I don't like the numbers that Denver has. I don't like the people, or I don't like that people are so high on Denver here. I actually don't even like the spread here. Based on DFS, this should probably be a much closer game. So those are just kind of me like reiterating points, but that's why like, I'm just seeing so many things leading in that direction. That's why I think that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Well, I think I might end up popping out here. I think Sheets, for everyone out there, I think Sheets might pop in and do a little more on the NBA once he was still waiting on the Celtics news. I'm just gonna take a quick look and see if we have that, if anything's come through on that stuff. Cam Johnson's out. Thanks, Cos, for telling us that. Kobe White's out, obviously, but that was a little bit earlier. And Dillingham's out. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't mind the over, Jimmy, on that over 41. It does feel like a little bit low, maybe. I thought it would be higher. I like that. I like that call, the betting the over tonight. All right, Brandon. Well, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate all you guys for being here. Again, Sheets might pop in a little bit, talk a little more NBA. Anybody else have any questions, please hit me up in the Discord. I will be checking all night, even though I'm not going to be playing, but I'll offer my best thoughts the best I can. Anything else, Brandon, before we get out of here?
No, I don't have anything else. Just best of luck, guys. And I guess, at least for me, let's go Cleveland.